Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse, and in today's segment, I'm here with Maine Prepper.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for being here. So, what we're going to talk about with you guys today is leadership and qualities that are necessary for a leader to have in order to thrive, in order for people under this person to thrive. You have wonderful practical experience in that you were a leader in the military. Why don't you give people a brief background on what you did?
Well, to begin with, leaders are not born. You're not a born leader, you're made into one, and it takes a lot of training and practice. And in the military, and as well as a lot of civilian jobs, they spend a lot of time teaching people to be managers. But there's a difference between managing and leading.
That's true.
If I can boil it all down into one phrase, it's this: lead by example.
That's true. Nobody wants to follow a hypocrite.
No. And furthermore, this is one of the things I learned as a soldier. And I was a first sergeant for a while, and before that, you go all the way up the ranks. Your soldiers or your followers will rarely exceed your best efforts. The average soldier, for instance, let's say I was nominal on my physical fitness. I guarantee you I would have a lot of soldiers failing the physical fitness test. Whereas if I tried to excel and max the physical fitness test every time I took it, I had fewer soldiers that failed because everybody realized, hey, we need to follow the leader.
So basically, you need to lead by example. We've established that. What we want to do for you guys is to lay out not only the abstract, but also some practicalities here, too. Leadership is necessary in peacetime and in even times and happy times, but I think it's especially needed in times where the infrastructure, the grid, the expected way of life starts to break down for whatever reason. We saw this recently with the major snow and ice storm in Atlanta, and that brought everything to a standstill. One of the major criticisms was that there was a gulf and a lack of leadership. Yes. So we can learn from this, right? And we can make some changes now, and we can keep things in the back of our mind now so that in the event of something bad happening, we're a little bit better prepared. One of the things that I want to recommend, folks, if you're going to be a leader for your community, and this is for work or disaster, whatever it may be, if you're going to be a leader, as a practicality, eat last.
Yes.
Eat last.
Jim Gavin, who was the commanding general of the 82nd Airborne Division in World War II, famously said, leaders will jump first and eat last. Yeah. That means you're the first one to face danger and hardship, and you are the last one to eat. Those of you that are former military will remember you saw the first sergeant and the commander. What would we do when it was time to feed the troops? Commander and I would go to the end of the line, or I would stand off behind the serving line, and I would make sure my soldiers were getting fed right. When you do that sort of thing, when you start showing your people, even if it's just your family, even if you just your wife, even if it's just your wife and kids, if they see that you're concerned with their well-being, they're going to not be worried about taking care of those little things for themselves, and they'll be able to focus on getting things done.
This is true. Also, food is something that is very security tied to people. When people have food and they know that they're going to be fed and they know that their needs are highly prized by a leader, they feel more secure. If your people feel secure, then they're going to work better for you, they're going to have better attitudes, and they're not going to be as inclined to stab you in the back. Mutiny is not something that you want, and you want to try and avoid that. But how do you avoid that? We actually, to use a practical example from my own life, I worked in natural childbirth for quite a while, and when you're in this community, it's great when it's great, and when it's bad, it is bad.
Yes.
The lawsuits that tend to happen in childbirth very frequently are correlated with a lack of communication on the part of the birth attendant. Okay? Now, a leader needs to be able to articulate what it is they want out of people, not just talk, but actually clearly define their expectations for people. So I would actually use this when I worked as a psych nurse. When I needed my patients to perform a certain way, then I would communicate to them, I need you to do this. I need you to show me this. When you're clear about your expectations, it makes people feel secure. Again, we're coming back to security here. A lot of being a leader is making your people feel secure in their jobs and in their ability to perform satisfactorily to your desires and to your requests.
Yes. If it's a hierarchy where you've been placed in charge by somebody, especially, that's important because some of it's their job security where they're tied in. But when you're talking about a group of people just working together for a project or to survive an event like a hurricane, disaster, flood, economic hardship, you name it, often the leader is somewhat elected. Many times you just wind up, if you have training and experience as a leader, you kind of take up the reins. And those of you that have been a leader know that it's really not a job you want. Anybody that starts politicking to become a leader has always been suspicious to me. As an E8 in the Army, you can be either a master sergeant or a first sergeant, and they pay the same. And they would ask, do you want to be first sergeant? And I'd say, not really. And then they'd say who they were considering, and I'd go, God, he's worse than anybody. No, okay, fine, I'll do it. And you didn't want the job because it was too much work. But I would see people politicking to get that diamond or politicking to be the leader. And that's a dangerous thing because usually there's some ulterior motive or they just don't understand what's involved. They don't understand all the work. It frankly is a thankless job at times.
This is true. I would also add that people who tend to seek out control over groups of folks, they tend to do it usually not because they're benevolent, but because they're ruthless. Okay? This is especially true in tribal societies where warlords have control over a populace. They get there because their sword is bigger than the other guys, right? But if you want to ensure longevity in your community, then leadership as a role for a good leader is going to also be a role of being a servant, right? The really smart guy that I used to read and still do read sometimes says, he who be greatest among you must be your servant.
Good point. And that's another thing that a leader needs to consider is to be a follower. You're not always going to be in charge when you're the leader. And when somebody, one of your people that's working with you or for you, has a good idea, you need to cover down on that. You need to praise that and you need to follow it. I know many times when somebody else would come up with an idea, it may not have been my idea. It may not have even been a better idea, but it was an idea that would work. And if there was impetus and motion behind that, I would become probably one of the best followers you had. I would throw myself heart and soul into making your leadership work. And that pays huge dividends because the group succeeds. And that's really what a good leader wants to see, is your people, your group succeed. But the other thing is, when that person winds up maybe needing to follow you on something, they're going to be very vigorous in following you because they know that you have integrity.
That's a good point. And on the heels of that, delegation. Yes. Being able to delegate things. And that is a really hard thing to do, especially if you have perfectionist bent or you really like to succeed. Then we think in our heads, well, the more that I control, the better the outcome's going to be. No. That's a challenge for somebody to really step back and take an honest assessment of their own capability as a leader. What do I have to do? What can only be done by me? And what can be done by somebody else? Does it have to be exactly the way I would do it? No. Will it get done and be done satisfactorily and in a beneficial way to the community? Okay, maybe I can look at delegating that. And it's not an easy thing to do, and it takes a good amount of humility to do.
Yes. On the end of every pencil, there's an eraser. Even mechanical pencils, if you pull the little cap off, there's an eraser in there, and that's there for a reason. That's because people make mistakes, and this is a key thing for a leader to understand, is that your people are going to fail, and they're going to make mistakes. But a failure isn't the end of the world. A failure is just a stepping stone to developing your people or to learning something, and you can make a negative into a positive if you will, as a leader, step back and take a breath and detach yourself from the situation and go, okay, let's say when I had a business, one of my employees just drove a $5,000 machine into the water. The first thing I need to be concerned with is, how are you? Are you okay? Are you safe? Yes, but they're freaked out because they just crashed $5,000.
If I drove a $5,000 machine into the water, I think I'd be a little bit scared. Just a little bit.
Well, he was very afraid for his job. But I said, look, you have a pencil? He said, no, sir. I said, well, here. And I handed him one. I said, what's that on the end? He said, it's an eraser. I said, why is that there? And he said, I said, because people make mistakes and they're expected to fix them. So where is the machine? Because you're going to have to swim in their entire rope on it. And we're going to drag it out. I'm going to get a tow truck, and we're going to drag it out of the lake. So we did that, and then we went back to the shop, and it didn't ruin it. We drained the water out, drained the fluids out, replaced everything. And
Nice.
the next day, he was out there, and the next day, he went and got the weed eater off the truck, and I went over to the foreman, and I said, I want him on that machine today, because you need to get them back in the saddle. They need to get confidence in there. And he got on there, and he's like, are you sure? I said, I've never been more sure of anything in my life.
That's good.
Never any more problems, because he was a little bit more careful this time, and that's fine. But the point is, your people are going to make mistakes. Use those mistakes to develop your team and to develop that individual into what you need them to be.
You touched on a really important point there, and that's do not shame your people. Do not publicly shame people.
Yes.
That's a sure way to cripple your workforce and to cripple people under you. In this particular case, I'm going to praise you for that. Good job. In this particular case, instead of shaming this person and making this person a natural mistake, making it feel like the end of the world for them, using that as, like you said, an impetus for change, but also using that as a teaching point and a learning point. But do not shame your people. And I don't know what it is about our culture that tends to do this to people. And I think a lot of it has to do with stuff that's online. The seemingly endless amount of people who are ready and willing to critique folks online without any accountability behind the computer screen.
It's a lack of tact.
Well, yes,
and it's a sign of a decaying society that doesn't value other people's feelings and humanity in general.
This is true. Yeah, so don't shame your people. Let's do a recap here real quick.
Yes.
Don't shame your people. Delegate what you can. What else do we say? Lead by example. Lead by example. And then
expect mistakes. And understand that when you are leading, you're not just leading, you're also training and developing your people. You're not just leading them for one event. You have to look beyond what you're doing at the moment and realize that. And they may, let's say you're a soldier, they may actually develop into great soldiers. I had this happen all the time. My best soldiers would come up and say, hey, Top, I want to go SF, or I want to go transfer over to the Ranger Unit. And I'd say, I think you make a good candidate, and let me know what I can do to help you. Instead of fighting it, those of you that have been on active duty, you know what I'm talking about. You want to go SF, you want to do something like that, and your chain of command fights you on it, and they try to hang on to you. Well, you have to understand that some of your better people may leave your group, and they may go on to bigger and better things, and you need to be fully supportive of that, because a good leader cares about their people.
care about your people. Take care of your people. If you take care of your people and your team under you, they will take care of you when it counts.
Very good.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, thanks for being here today, Main Prepper.
Well, thank you. Thanks for dropping by.
No problem.
And always a pleasure to do a video with you.
Thank you. Thank you. If you guys enjoyed the video today, please subscribe to me, Patriot Nurse, and also to Main Prepper's channel. And also, if you haven't checked out Main Prepper's Facebook page, go ahead and do that. Put a link down below. Check out my Facebook page as well. Like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. All right.
All right. Thanks, folks. And in conclusion, long live the Republic.
We'll see you guys later.
Bye. Okay, you do that. Wait,
Yay.
I hear black helicopters.
Shh.
They have whisper mode on.
Whisper mode.
That's right. Did you see the chemtrails this morning? I did. Look, if you see chemtrails, hold your breath and don't make eye contact. Okay. I have these conversations with myself a lot. It's okay. It's okay as long as I don't have guns or other violent methods involved. When you have an argument with yourself, it's fine. Sorry.
I'm never going to get this video filmed. Okay.
No. We will. We will. I'm retired. You can tell, huh? Because I don't seem to have much of a work ethic. I just will just spend hours doing nothing.
I'm talking to the camera.
Yes.
Okay.
Do I need a hat?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Do I need a haircut?
No. Sit back. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
You
Leadership.
got a microphone right there.
Leadership. 101.
Leadership.
A good leader is not defensive. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Shut up. Okay. I talk to myself all the time when I'm driving. But I hold my cell phone in my hand so people think I'm just talking while I drive. And talking to the camera. And then, did I tell you how many videos I recorded without pushing record? It's on. Okay, it's on. But maybe we don't want to use this.
Okay. I'm a nurse. We get stuff done, yo. We get it done. Okay. right?
That's because you're a leader.